You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the pod. Would you believe it? It's myself, Adam, hosting today. We're back for the season opener against Ipswich. We've got a few little bit of housekeeping bits to cover off with just our thoughts and opinions on what we think the season will bring for us, with us obviously being second season back in the Prem, a Europe campaign to run, and many other things to look forward to. So to discuss this with me today, we have Kev and we have Robin. Kev, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It feels like it's been a very busy day, so I appreciate you lads staying on late for this one. But yeah, hopefully we're back into the full swing of things now.
Excellent. And likewise, Robin, how are you doing, mate?
Not too bad, surprisingly. I forgot to set my 5 a.m. alarm this morning and woke up at 4:57, luckily. So, yeah, it was like, well, what's going on? But, yeah, long day at work and stuff and that. But, yeah, we're here now to, get things going.
Indeed. So let's get straight into the meat of the pod there today. So, obviously, as mentioned, brand new season, European run to come forward. It's going to be a mind-blowing season. It's going to be an exciting season. We've already seen doubters already doubting us, putting us to either be relegated, having second season blues, or putting us in 17th. Like, ridiculous across the board. I know we'll touch on the presser in a little bit, but Reggie's with the best comment ever. Basically, doubters will doubt us. Let them carry on doubting us, because at the end of the day, we've proved them wrong so far. What is your take on that, lads?
Well, Retrice is spot on, isn't he? I mean, he says, they said we'd finish mid-table in the Championship. We got promoted. They said we'd get relegated. We finished 7th, and we're tipped now, obviously, with a few of the pundits. I mean, I must say it's been quite refreshing in the last couple of days. After a few of the pundits were tipping us, like a lot of the sort of ex-players now have come out and said, I don't know where they're getting this from. It's like, they've not sold any players. They've kept everyone there, likely to add to it, and they've got European football. Yeah, they're saying it's going to be tough, but, I think it's just lazy punditry. Like I said last season, it was lazy by them by just saying, we're favourites to go down. I mean, it's like this season, who's the 3 favourites to go down? Hull, Ipswich and Coventry.
Yeah.
And yet there's Premier League teams, which have struggled the last few seasons. Obviously you look at Tottenham finishing 17th twice. I don't think they're going to do that again, but, you look at other teams and that, and there's been a bit of turmoil. They've sold players, and I know we've not had many incomings yet, just sort of like Thomas Mooney. Obviously the Dayan Mathali thing sort of on hold at the moment. But the major thing is that we haven't got rid of anyone that we'd class as an important player.
I mean, the man couldn't have put it any better. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it has been very, very lazy journalism this last week. In, like you say, certain people saying, they're going to go straight. This is this second season syndrome. And I can't remember the creator's name, but fair play to him. He's basically gone back and said, out of the last 30 teams to come out to the last 10 seasons, only 4 have ever suffered second season syndrome. And I think, he made a really valid point in the fact that we haven't, like Robin said, we haven't lost key players. Out of players last season that we had that we should have probably or could have probably kept, Gertrude is the only one. And there's clearly an element of something in the background that the club decided it's not for us. So, yeah, I think it's just lazy, journalism. I think there's a little bit of, they know by throwing Sunderland into the mix, the chances are they're going to get clicks, they're going to get interactions, and they're going to get reactions. And I've said that when I've been posting on TikTok. I've actually been saying, "Oh, well done, another expert using Sunderland to gain some clicks." Because funnily enough, the clips they all post are the ones that are saying about Sunderland suffering second season syndrome.
Yeah.
But I think, was it Roy Keane? He's been clipped today saying, "Not a chance."
Yeah.
The manager's a genius, and they've not lost any key players. And I would trust what Keane says over some of the people that have given opinions.
Indeed, and I think one of them, other than Roy Keane, that came out and said similar is Carragher. I think Carragher's came out to defend us, saying they've had a brilliant season last season. Why can't they continue such a good season on this season when they've got, as you both mentioned, Regis kept the main players are there. The biggest talking point in that whole thing was Granit Xhaka. Everyone was touting him good in Chelsea. Gordon saying, "Oh, he's going to go for, what was it, 8 million?" We know if there was a higher bid, we all know deep down he would have went if there was a higher bid. We know for a fine fact being that's the case. But for him to come out himself as well during a busy World Cup run to go, "What are you talking about? I'm staying here. Leave me alone. Continue next." That speaks volumes in itself for the club, doesn't it?
I mean, look, his head was probably turned because obviously, working with Xavi Alonso again. But, obviously he's bought into the project and stuff. But, I mean, I did see a thing the other day that no team has dropped 11 places. And that's what we'd have to do to get relegated. Drop 11 places. And this is just a thing. And on the back of us keeping Granit Xhaka, you look at Brentford that, finished sixth, lost Henderson, who was that key figure. Brighton lost Welbeck, another key figure. Yet no one's mentioning them two that they might drop off with European football.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good point. But let's quickly touch on thoughts and processes for league and the European run, because obviously it is a huge achievement. We've said it from the get-go as soon as it got announced. Sorry, as soon as we found out we're in Europe. Obviously, all three of us were buzzing with that information. I just want to get your just two quick takes on just a position where you think we'll finish in the league and where we think we'll get into the European echelons.
Well, I think I said earlier on, I fancy finishing top half. I would love to see us push on a bit more. I think it's going to be tough because I do think, with Chelsea not having European football and with the amount of money that Tottenham spent, you can see them two, going above us. So, I mean, if we manage to finish in 7th place or 8th place, it'd be a phenomenal achievement again because basically you've got this, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Villa, which you've probably got to look at going, that's the top 7 there.
Mm-hmm.
So any place sort of like, I mean, if you manage to break into that again, I mean, if Regis could manage to do what Peter E did and finish 7th twice on the trot would be an absolutely phenomenal achievement.
Indeed,
I actually think we'll finish 9th this season.
Okay. And as for the European, where do you think we'll finish there? I know in your heart of hearts you'll probably be like all three of us and saying to win it.
But look, I'm not sure we're going to win it. It'd be a dream to win it. I do think we'll reach the final though. I do think that a trip to Frankfurt next May is on the cards. Just look around. Obviously, it depends on the draw and everything like that. I expect us to get through the league stage sort of thing, the 8 games. I expect with our home form and the way that, I mean, I know it's different. I know it's pre-season, but the way we went to Lens a few weeks ago, the way we went to Augsburg last season in Germany, it's if that's anything to go by, we're going to take people with us, and we're going to make a it's going to be difficult, but I think the atmosphere that we're going to bring is going to spur the lads on.
Yeah.
Obviously the home form's going to be the important one, but if we could win the 4 home games, nick a couple on the road sort of thing, we're going to qualify for the knockout stages, and I think then once we get that with a bit of momentum, we can go all the way to the final.
Yeah. I'll start booking the honeymoon now to Frankfurt. Have your thoughts on where we're going to finish in European as well?
To be honest with you, I think top half is a shout. Like you said, I can't see Spurs having another Spursy season because of the amount of money they're spending, the type of players they're bringing in. I think Robin pretty much nailed the top half. Well, the top 6 easy. I think United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, in an order. Liverpool, they've got to be thrown in there. I think the teams that we need to compete with this season are probably going to be your Fulhams, your Evertons. I think the likes of Palace, because they're having another weird window. Brentford, like Robin said, there's a lot of teams I think that are going to have a lot of a harder season on their hands than maybe they did last season. Leeds themselves, they've bolstered, but they've also just lost Pirro and a few others. So, where are they going to be? Have the promoted sides brought in enough to do what we did?
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I think sitting in the mid-table top half would be brilliant, especially if we can then push on to something like the semi-finals of the Europa, just to prove that we weren't just there to make up the numbers. Because obviously, them up the road, yeah, they've had more trips to Europe recently, but they don't exactly make a good show of themselves when they do go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would like. I would like us to go and at least compete. I would love, absolutely, like Robin said, to get to the final and prove that we weren't a fluke. But this is that whole, at the moment, my big concern is our depth of squad. We're a couple of injuries away from a disaster.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No worries at all. So Kev's keeping his cards close to his chest of the specific number and position in the table. For me, I'm similar to you, Robin. I think definitely there's a final on the cards for Europe. Position in the league-wise, I'm going to say 10th. The reason why I do agree with you for the final for Europa is just the way we played against Lens. If you look at the way we played against them, and then they played pretty much similar team against PSG, and they beat PSG. That in itself is big, that we've managed to beat the team that has then went on to beat arguably one of the best teams in Europe. Says something for us of how we are prepared. I understand, you're probably going to correct me, it is pre-season, so nobody's going to be at full pelt, so to speak, but still, it's one of those, isn't it? If you can beat them, put your mind to it, you could technically beat anybody on your day.
Well, look, I mean, that was the French version of their charity shield, community shield, the Super Cup thing. Obviously, the league winners against the cup winners. I mean, obviously, Lens did push PSG all the way last season. And if it wasn't for the league helping PSG with a bit of moving around of the fixtures,
Yeah,
it could well have been different. But yeah. I mean, Lens are a Champions League team. That's what you got to look at. They're very well organised. They did have a change in manager though in the off season, and I mean that's the thing. I think we've got to look at in the Premier League as well. There's a lot of new managers in there that have come in. I know obviously Palace have brought a new manager in. Obviously Fulham have brought a new manager in as well. Obviously Glasnow's gone up to Forest. There's new managers coming into teams that might struggle a little bit.
Yeah. Indeed.
And that's the thing. Obviously, going back to obviously Chelsea and Spurs, they've got new managers, obviously, but I mean, they've got bundles of money, and you're talking, a manager that went unbeaten in Germany and beat the favourites to win the league, and then you've got De Zerbi, who is regarded as one of the best coaches in the world, to be fair. So I think the bottom half of the league could very well be interesting this season.
Indeed. But you've hit the nail on the head there with obviously new managers and things like that. I believe it helps us move on very nicely to Ipswich. I believe they did get a new manager in the summer as well. Obviously, they've got 12 new signings through the door as well. They have, in some people's words, they're trying to replicate us by bringing as many signings as they can in. No, to me, it's Ipswich doing it their Ipswich way. They've been a bit more smart this year. They haven't bought 6 wingers for the same wing when they first came up. But are we looking as if this is their season to try and go, you know what? We were there last time. We made mistakes. We came straight back down. We want to right that wrong, and we want to prove that we belong in the Premier League now.
Well, I think the difference this time is that Ipswich have bought players which have played in the Premier League. Last time they went up, they bought the best from the Championship, which proved that they weren't quite good enough for the Premier League. Yeah, they had a season in the Premier League, but then they went back down. They have made some good signings this year. I mean, the only thing is, the manager. They've gone from Kieran McKenna, who was regarded as a really good up-and-coming manager, to Gary O'Neill, who's not really, pulled up any trees anywhere, has he? He's, it's going to be... It's one of those things, I think, that we could catch them a bit early. Obviously, new manager coming in, a lot of new players. At least, obviously, when we did it last season with LeBrue, there was still players there. He'd been there a season. He knew all them players anyway. I mean, Ipswich could be... They could be brilliant or they could be terrible.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Look, it's going to be a tough place to go. Portman Road's one of those old sort of grounds. However, if we get an early goal against them or something like that with the team that I expect us to be able to put out there, I think we've got more than enough to brush them aside, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much the summary of Ipswich. Yeah, they've brought in a lot of players, and I've seen so many of their fans saying, "Oh well, we haven't finished spending yet." It's all good spending the money, but you need to spend on the right players.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think like CCO, is it in CISO? Robin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good signing, but they needed, in my opinion, they need more than just a few household names, so to speak.
I mean, they brought Diop in from Fulham, who, is a solid enough player, but he's got a mistake in him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those that, would we want to bring him in? Not to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, they might have brought players in, but are they of the standard of players that we're looking at? I don't think they are.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, and obviously it's the whether or not he does play will be the return of Clarkey. Do we think we'll see him and he'll get a nice reception similar to what Mayenda did, for example, or do we think it'll just be a little clap, well done, thank you for your time being at the club, move on?
I think he had that before, though, didn't he? We've played Ipswich, and Clarkey's been back. I'm sure he has, but do you know what I mean? I just don't think. For me, it's your moment was done. You chose to leave us.
Yeah.
I quote, to go and play Premier League football.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't exactly work out. In fact, I don't think we have played them because I think we went up, they went down.
Yeah.
Which was the whole kind of almost comedy of it. The fact that he left us to go to the Prem and got relegated back down, and we went up. So, another one of Ian Hart's favourite moments.
I mean, look, it's at Portman Road, so I expect he's going to get a good reception, Adam. I don't know where you were coming from with that one, but
from us, not them.
he might get a bit of a clap, but he's not. It's obviously it's different at home when it's a player returning home. That's going to be the thing when you really appreciate them, sort of thing, and show them, the appreciation for what they did for us. At the end of the day, obviously he went. We had, Mundell in the wings waiting. Which that first season Mundell performed really well. It's just the fact that he got injured last year and missed an awful lot of it. Because obviously they took the money for Clark, which obviously allowed us then to, bring in other players, and that's the difference, really. The way that the business is and the way the model is. We get these players in, and fans are going to fall in love with them because they're good players. But unfortunately, it's when they're like that, and we're in the position that we were in, they're going to go. Obviously Tommy Watson, obviously he was great coming through for the PSR and stuff, or the squad ratio cost as it is now, obviously because it's pure profit. Patterson going pure profit. Yeah, it's hard to see these players go. Especially the ones that have come through the academy. Yeah, we got Clark Young and he was only there, 3-4 seasons, but he felt like one of ours because he was so young.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So, but when we're making profit, it's like my ender. Look, no one wanted to see him go. He wanted to get more regular football. He was clearly behind Brobby and Isidore in the pecking order. And obviously, he wants to go and play, and this is it. And, we turned a massive profit on him.
Yeah.
Which it helps. See, we've recouped a bit of money this season. We haven't spent anything yet. But that's what we need to do, because the way that it works, unless you're in the so-called top six of the traditional big clubs that have already cheated your way into a position of power, because obviously the rules all changed after they'd spent their billions, or you've got the likes of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which generates so much money on it, not only on a match day, but their NFL, their music concerts, everything like that. So their income is far greater than ours. Obviously, we've been doing it with some of the concerts at the stadium as well. But, the other clubs, when you look at the likes of Villa and stuff that don't really have events on throughout the summer, they can't compete, which is why Villa, Morgan Rogers on a long-term contract, but they had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because they need to balance the books and that. And it's just the way it works. It's a bit infuriating that you can't spend the money that you've got. It doesn't matter how rich your owners are. The top six have sort of protected themselves from actually being challenged.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to take down there. So what we can do is look into, obviously, our side going down. So obviously we've had the presser today. Obviously it came out some good news that the only one that's going to be a miss for the game is Adringa, which is a good sign to think that. What? Kev's trying to tell me off, but he's got himself on mute.
I just thought that was hilarious. Me and Robin just gestured to each other drinking, because I think you actually said a drinker.
I was going to say bingo,
which is basically us on weekends, but come on.
Yeah.
It is us on the weekend, that's true. Nevertheless, let's go back to that. So yeah, that's the only player out with his injury there. We know he's going to be ruled out for up to 6 weeks, I believe Reggie said. in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much of a miss, I would say, because he hasn't been playing for us. He went on loan last year to Monaco. He got, 3 goals, 2 assists in however many games over there. But the rest of the team is there. Are we going to see a solid back line of what we expect, or would you say bring O'Nien and Ballard, or would you say Ballard, Alderete? What are you lads thinking of a back?
Look, it depends who's fit at the end of the day. Who's fully fit. Luke O'Nien's played, I think, every minute of pre-season virtually.
Yes.
He's featured in every game. To be fair, the lad could probably do with the rest. Alderete's played no pre-season whatsoever. So I wouldn't say that he's going to be fit to start. Personally, I would probably go with Mounier at the right back, Mukiele and Ballard in the middle, with Ronaldo on the left. However, it does seem harsh on Luke because Luke's really stepped up and he looks so much of a better player than what he used to be. But I would just personally prefer that little bit more height and, less recklessness in there, so to speak. It's a tough one. I'd be happy. I'd be happy with, Mukiele or Mounier at right back. Ballard in the middle. If O'Nien's in the middle, so be it. I've got no concerns with him this season.
Got you.
And I think obviously it's just it's a formality that Ronaldo's going to be there because there's not really anyone else that's going to compete with him at this moment in time.
True. Kev was nearly heartbroken there when you mentioned about O'Nien not coming on.
You know what it is? I think Regis is being quite cute in his press conference because he said everyone's available apart from Simon. It makes them have to think more. Let's be honest, they will now be watching pre-season games, how it's on the lineup, who featured, who didn't feature, what formation, and they look at all of that. But yeah, that press conference today basically went, yeah, it might be what you saw against Lens and Rennes, or it might be completely different. And that's what I like about Regis. I get he's not going to turn around and go, here's my team sheet. But
yeah,
it keeps them guessing. I agree. I think if Mounier's fit, he probably comes straight into the squad. And a little bit of that for me is also to show Ipswich we're not the same punching bag people think we were. Do you know what I mean? We've got players now that will cause problems. So yeah, I'd like to see a back line of Hume, Mukiele, Ballard, and Reynildo. But I also, like you say, I think Mounier brings a great addition in. Luke's got a spot to fight for because, to be honest with you, and I know I'm a Luke fan, I'd probably say he's been one of our best players pre-season.
Oh, 100%. I'd agree with that one.
There are fans that will still say he's not Premier League level.
Yeah.
I think Luke's proven he's Premier League level, albeit, is this the season where you see Xhaka captain and manage the Premier League team and Luke ends up being the Europa team and Xhaka steps in? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of games to play, and what we don't want is Xhaka getting burnt out because there were periods when he looked gassed.
Yeah,
it's only going to get harder with European football, but that's a conversation for another day, to be honest.
That's on top of the World Cup as well, where a lot of the players went quite deep into the World Cup.
Indeed, yeah.
I think the only thing you can guarantee this week is that Roofs will be in goal, Xhaka will be in midfield, Enzo will be just behind Brobby. That's it. I think those four, and probably Siddiqui. I say 5 players guaranteed sort of thing. And I think the rest, I'll say possibly Ballard in there. I mean, Hume's been playing in midfield a lot. He can also play left back. I forgot about that before. He can play left back. It's like I say, we have got options. Even though when you look at it as the squad, because we haven't brought many people in, you think, oh, we're a bit sort of like bare on numbers and stuff like that. But when you think about it, I mean, you've got obviously Talby on the wing, you've got Jocelyn, you've got obviously Angulo, you've got Mundell. I mean, midfield, you've got Diarra, you've got Rigg. And like I say, Hume has been playing in that midfield role. You have got players there which you're going to say are sort of like first team players. Wilson as well. So even though it might go, well, hang on a minute, if he gets injured, who are we going to bring in? But when you start actually looking at it, we have got quite a bit of. We haven't got massive depth, but I think we've got enough to cope.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask one last question in regards to players and stuff like that. And it's Enzo. You brought him up. Do we see him doing what he's been doing all in pre-season? Just he's been put in the number 10 role, man, do what you want effectively. And he's caused absolute mayhem in the games. He's been in and out everywhere. The passes have been sublime. People have got onto them. He's worked well with Jacques, drop back, helping Jacques out a little bit. Do we see that going to be a thing going in the Prem, or do we think it's just going to be, right, you stay here, you're not allowed to move? If that makes sense.
No, I mean, look, Enzo's he's one of those players that you just give him the ball and let him do what he wants. I think at first we never saw the best out of Enzo because of the injuries and him playing out on the wing.
Yeah.
But as soon as we've got fit wingers, you don't put him anywhere near the wing. He has got to be in that playmaker role. Let Xhaka do the deep stuff and look for the passes and spread it about, and then let Enzo work the magic going forward.
Spot on. Kev, do you want to give your 10 pence on that?
I couldn't agree more. I think he's going to be given more freedom this season. I think he'll be told cover on the wings.
Yeah.
But primarily you're going to be a central player. You'll tuck in behind the number 9.
Yeah.
He can deliver a lot. I feel we've got a lot still to see out of Mundell. And I do worry a little bit. Is he an injury away again? Do you know what I mean? It's the problem we've got with a player like Mundell. He won't want to give 110% because he doesn't want to injure himself again. Because it was his hamstring he had to have an operation on last season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that took him out for so long. So where he goes to beat his man, and especially when I watched the friendly at the stadium the other night, when he goes to beat his man, you almost feel like he's not ready to push fully on the hamstrings because I think he is worried about where is the limit on it. But obviously, when we're in the swing of the season, that might change. But going back to Enzo, I feel very much like Regis is building him to be a future captain.
Yeah.
In terms of he's putting him in front of the camera, he's putting him in front of the media. He as a player, he seems to be growing in his confidence.
Yeah.
And that really helps. I feel he is a confidence-based player. When he's playing well, he performs better in terms of mentally. But I think you'll see a lot more out of him this season. I think there's still a couple of things when needed, but I would prefer for the wingers to do the wingers' job and Enzo to be the number 10 for us.
Perfect. No, amazing, lads. Pleasure as always doing this with yourselves. Let's wrap this up with some quick predictions for the weekend. I'll start with you, Kev. Your predictions first, mate.
So you ought to be nut off here. 3-1 for us.
3-1.
I think, like Robin said, Portman Road's tough. I think Everton,
Yeah.
geez, I am tired. Ipswich will bring something, and I think they will nick a goal. But
yeah,
I just think we will have a little bit too much for them. And, I think they're in for a shock with the physicality of Robbie. I just hope Robbie's allowed to play football and he's not held back by refereeing of, oh, you're being too rough.
Yeah,
like
indeed.
Switch should be used to the thick and thin of
Yeah.
the championship and how rough and ready that can be. So what I don't want to see is their centre backs diving about as soon as Robbie goes near them.
Indeed. Go on then, Robin. Your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I said obviously earlier on, I think it'll be 3-0. I think Brobby will get one and Enzo too. I just want to add quickly to what Kev said there about Brobby. I had noticed that obviously the game last week at the Stadium of Light and also the Community Shield, the refs seem to allow a little bit more physicality this season and they're not falling for the defenders just dropping on the floor anymore. So I think they've been given a new directive that, if a defender falls over because it's light contact, then just play on.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it last season. I think Ronaldo was it Villa when he went down a bit easy and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And no, it was Fulham, wasn't it? It was Fulham. I think he did it against. He went down a bit easy, didn't get a free kick and stuff. And I think as a thing, I think they're giving a bit of a new directive that they're going to allow that physicality. I myself, this pre-season, I've enjoyed it a bit more because it has been a little bit more physical, and they've been letting the players get away with that little bit more.
Yeah, perfect. Likewise for myself, I'm going to say I think it's going to be 2-0. I think I'm in agreement with you that Robbie and Enzo will get a goal. I think that'll be it, really. But other than that, let's wrap this up in a nutshell. Kev, thanks for joining me. Robin, thanks for joining me. As ever, everyone listening in, it is amazing that you guys give us all the support that you do. And as ever, we'll see you all on the next one.